Hey guys, it's season 3. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? I can't believe it, honestly. I'll be honest, I was very, very nervous about podcasting in general, about putting myself out there in general, and it honestly feels good to be doing season 3. I feel like this is just an ongoing process and continuing to get better as I go through it. As you can see, I'm keeping up with the video. What's up, guys? If you're watching, I really do feel like I'm able to convey a lot more if you can actually see me, but not to worry, you'll also be able to hear me if you're out on a walk, driving in your car, or just doing something where paying attention to a screen is just not possible. So either way, I'm really glad to be back. Got a lot of catching up to do, got a lot of things to share. There is so much that I really want to talk to you guys about, but first things first, couple of updates that I will share with you guys, and then just kind of going into how I feel about moving forward with some things. So stay tuned and, hang out. Hopefully, I share some things that are insightful and, helpful. Let's do it. Welcome back. If you are new here, hi, my name is Taylor Danielle, host and owner here of Healing in Hindsight. Welcome aboard. If you have been listening for a while, welcome back. I'm excited for you guys to be here to just catch up and all of the cool things that are coming this season. I've got some great guests lined up, but also some changes to the show as well. You're not only going to get one episode, but 2 episodes per week. I know that seems like a lot. And, I thought really hard about it. And I really just felt that I didn't get a lot of time with you guys, honestly, because I truly love perspective and kind of allowed the guest episodes to take over most of the season sometimes. So, to even things out, you're going to get solo episodes from me every Tuesday and then guest episodes on our usual Thursdays. So, I got a lot more to share with you guys and just, keep track of my journey and the things that I'm learning and feel that, might be helpful for you too, but don't want to lose those cool perspectives and awesome people that I'm meeting along the way. So, with that being said, let's just start with some updates. I've recently gotten all of my doctor's stuff done just in time to keep you guys updated on what's going on. Now, I'm sure you saw the theme of the episode. It's resetting when you've fallen off, trying to get back on the saddle when things didn't necessarily go as planned. And that is the case with me. So, my last A1C update with you guys, I was at 7.5. I was really excited and proud of myself, honestly, because I worked really hard to get my A1C down. Now, granted, it's not the best number, but it was the best A1C, honestly, that I've had since I've been diagnosed. And yes, that says a lot because I spent about 2.5 years in denial and then trying to find my way and still had some crazy A1Cs, but I'm truly on track to getting that down. That being said, this last round, I let a lot of things get in my way and I, you know, definitely did not do as good of a job with stress management as I, in hindsight would have liked, but that's okay because I'm continuing to learn. I'm continuing to make shifts and pivots to ultimately get myself back to a controlled state. Because at some point I was, right? Before I was diagnosed, I was in, A1C was fine, blood sugars were fine. So that is still the goal, right? So my last A1C was 7.5. My current A1C is now at 8.3. So definitely some movement there. I'm glad it didn't shoot up too high because I probably would have been really defeated, but definitely some work to do. And something else that came up in my, most recent testing was that my bad cholesterol was a little elevated. I tried to think about, what have I been eating that would aid to that. So I've been doing some research and trying to break down, a lot of what I've been eating. I have been a little bit more cheese heavy. I don't recall if that aids to cholesterol. I know red meat does, but I don't eat red meat that often. So I don't know. But I will be digging into that and trying to determine ways that I can just keep my cholesterol in check. Because one thing that is, a lot more prevalent, not only just based off of the American diet, but in general for a Black woman, is that heart disease is a thing. And we're, pretty more likely to have it, or even just, deal with a heart attack. So I don't want to just forget about all of my other functions, on top of my diabetes, but wanting to make sure that I protect my heart as well. Because, without that, diabetes is like nothing, right? So A1C went up, got a little bit higher bad cholesterol levels than normal. They weren't super high, which, makes me feel good about at least that it wasn't like this crazy off the chart thing, but something I am going to keep track of in order to ensure that I am not so hyper focused on one thing I forget about others. So, yes, there's some disappointment, and especially when you're running a business and podcast, based off of a diabetic lifestyle and things like that, it can feel really defeating when you have a moment where like it doesn't seem like you're progressing. But I do feel that I am, and the fact that I'm learning a lot from it, and so much has already changed, while I was getting all that testing done and even up to now. So I feel really good about where I'm moving to, and that I am finding not only a routine that works best for me, but a medical staff, honestly, to help me. I'm not just seeking the help of my primary care, which is what I was doing. I mainly was being managed by my primary care physician for my diabetes stuff. And I think that is something that I finally looked at that may need some additional support. So, that being said, along with my primary care, I actually saw a dietitian. Now, I've never had an issue with nutritionists or dietitians and things like that. I did see one when I was first diagnosed, but she immediately went to just like, you can have things, just carb count, just take the bun off of, one part of the bun off of the burgers, things like that. And not to say that some of that doesn't make sense. It was just really difficult at that time when I was with somebody who ate anything and everything, and it didn't phase him. It didn't, and wasn't considerate, about when he would buy food for the both of us, that there were certain things that weren't the best choices for me. Wasn't his diagnosis, wasn't his concern. And I will just say that's okay, for where it is. But, I am now in a better place of thinking through what other areas of support can I have? I can't just put all of this on one doctor, and for a long time, they're professionals that I never even considered because it was never brought up to me until I started, speaking with others in the community and like finding out what they were doing and stuff like that. So I honestly, I scheduled my dietitian appointment on a whim, actually. I was scheduling my labs to do my A1C and all that stuff like that, and I can't remember what it was. I was actually looking at the clinical chain, I guess you can call it, for an endocrinologist, but the one in this particular chain doesn't treat diabetes. She's more for like pregnancy and stuff like that, or like thyroid or something. Anyways, so I think I saw an option to schedule with a dietitian in the midst of like looking for a diabetic treating endocrinologist, if you will. And so I typically go for female doctors, no shade to male doctors. It's just hard wanting to be heard and not have a gender bias. Now, hold the phone on that, okay? So I connected with a female dietitian, and after I did my labs, she was able to see me like same day. So I did my labs, and then like 2 hours later I came back and I saw her. And I did get a endocrinology referral from my doctor, but the clinic that it was at, they were out of my insurance network. And I really just wasn't comfortable going out of network and paying out of pocket so much more because, obviously these clinics don't advertise that. So when I reached back out to them after they got the referral from my doctor, and I was like, how much would it cost? Let's just say it wasn't worth going, because I would also have to pay for any labs and medication, everything afterwards. So I sought out a endocrinologist that was within my network, and he is a male. And so I mainly was okay with going forward with him because he had a lot of great reviews. And so a lot of the comments that I read were like, he really listened. He, explained everything to me well when it came to my diabetes management. I felt like I could have a conversation, blah, 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 good things. Okay, I'll take a chance. Now I had to wait to hear back if they had an appointment available. So in the meantime, I was seeing my dietitian. Now, the endocrinologist I was mainly scheduling because I wanted a constant glucose monitor. But unfortunately, when I reached out to my doctor, I was like, hey, are you willing to write a prescription for me to get a CGM? Or do I need to go to an endocrinologist? And that's when she referred me out. So when I was waiting to hear back from the endocrinology appointment setters, if you will, I see this dietitian and I bring her up to speed. She's in the same clinic as my doctor, so we use like a my chart system, so she can see all of my stuff, right? And so I explained to her, like, eating is not the worst thing for me, honestly. Like at home, I'm relatively a clean eater. Not that there's dirty eating, or you know what I mean, guys. So I don't keep heavy carb stuff in the house because I know me, if I keep junk in the house, I'm gonna eat it, and I'm probably gonna eat it all in one sitting because that's just an area of self-control that I need to work on. But since I know that about myself, I give myself small treats, and then I rein it in at home. So what I was really shocked at and appreciative of is she didn't go immediately into like, okay, well, you need to count this many carbs, this kind of thing. I was like, I know that I need to have carb, fat, protein. I know that that trifecta is effective, and I do my best to try to have all three if I can. There's some struggles here and there, but I don't know what's spiking me. Because this last round, I definitely noticed that my numbers in the mornings were higher, dawn phenomenon aside. And there's a whole episode where I talk about that more in detail. But I was just having crazy morning numbers. And it got to a point where I started checking my blood sugar multiple times throughout the day, which wasn't what I was originally diagnosed to do, right? But I just couldn't put my finger on it, on why I was experiencing these higher numbers. So she was like, well, do you have a CGM? I was like, well, I'm trying to get one through an endocrinologist, but I have to wait for them to confirm my appointment. And that's when she was like, oh, I can give you one. And I'm like, what? I've been trying to get one. I've literally been emailing places, seeing if I can order it without a prescription. No, they're checking my insurance. My insurance won't pay for it. So it was going to be pretty expensive out of pocket. And she was like, no, I can give you the full starter kit with a sensor free sample essentially. And then I can reach out to your doctor and have, request that she writes you a prescription based off of our conversation today. And I was so happy because I really do feel like I've learned so much more in the, short time that I've been wearing my CGM than I ever have constantly pricking my finger. I love that I can see if I'm trending up, if I'm going to stay even for a little bit, if I'm going down, if I'm going really down. Like, I love that there's alarms to let me know when I'm going too high or too low. It's just changed things so much. I just feel very hyper aware, but not in a way that makes me paranoid. You know what I mean? Just in like, I'm making more cognizant decisions because I actually like scanning myself. I'm like, oh, cool, there I am. My numbers have been really good since I've been wearing it. Now, in the midst of the Texas freeze, I did run out of medication. So, there was a piece of it that I recognized was not having my meds and having those higher numbers. But I went in to do my labs fasting, and my glucose numbers were great, honestly, without my medication. So I know that it's possible, right? So she gives me CGM, and I'm so happy. But I still decided that I was going to continue with the endocrinology appointment once they confirmed it, which they did. So, again, this is my first time seeing one. I know, or I feel like I've heard in the type 1 space, it's like an automatic that you're going to see an endocrinologist on top of your primary physician, right? But it doesn't feel like that's pushed for us to do in the type 2 space. At least for me, it wasn't. I was told about getting diabetes education, but nobody really kept up with me. I was, given some pamphlets, so I guess it was up to me to schedule it. Not saying that your doctor should have to do that for you. Just for me, it wasn't emphasized enough for me to honestly like get a clue and remember. But at the time when I was diagnosed, I was severely in denial too. So I'm putting it all on human error on why I didn't have a diabetes educator experience, right? But it never was brought up to talk to an endocrinologist until I asked my doctor about getting a CGM. So I find one, he has really good reviews. I go in and I tell him, like, off the top, like, yeah, part of me coming in was to get a CGM, but my dietitian was actually able to get me one. And so I give him the rundown of my history for the past couple of years, what medications I'm taking, that kind of thing. And what I liked is that he was very cheerful. He had a very calm demeanor. I felt comfortable essentially as I was talking to him, and I felt like he listened pretty decently. I did mention that, I wasn't sure of what my ideal weight was because I recognize that does play somewhat of a role, but I think I might have opened up a can of worms because once I finished giving him the rundown, because I brought up the ideal weight thing because I told him I was, slowly getting back into the gym, trying to be careful of things, right? But I just don't know where I should be landing in terms of just I am at a healthy place. I'm not trying to do this for vanity's sake. This is a healthy weight for me. So what ended up I didn't like the fact that that's what we spent most of the time talking about. He immediately was like, "So based off of your height and your current weight, we need to drop about 30 to 40 pounds." And the rest of the time was spent talking about losing weight. And it is not that he didn't say things that weren't accurate or didn't make sense in the terms of, because I have diabetes on both sides of the family, there's a genetic aspect. Totally agree. And the more body fat that you have on you, the more insulin resistant you become. I do understand that. I just wish the verbiage used was different. And, everything underscore endocrine on Instagram, it's a New York endocrinologist. I really appreciate a lot of the statements that he's saying to his fellow colleagues, other endocrinologists, but to medical staff in general of like leading everything with weight is so discouraging and can cause so many downward spirals for people because especially as honestly any diabetic, no, I'll stick with it. Especially as a type 2 diabetic, the stigma with us is that we're typically overweight, obese, and we caused our diabetes by bad choices. I've actually heard that being said. Like, it's a series of bad choices, and that's why you're a type 2 diabetic. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't some truth to it for some people, right? I don't feel like it's a good generalization to say that, oh, you're type 2 diabetic, you caused it. No, no, that's not it at all. There's so many factors into why someone can develop diabetes. So please, guys, please do not make this about people who are diabetic caused it, especially type 2. Type 1s definitely didn't ask for it. I'll tell you that right now. One, there's so many other types. There's so many things that factor into what could cause it. Sometimes it's the food that we're eating and, not necessarily being educated properly on nutrition. There's so many things. So I would have appreciated if fat is the issue, then let's talk about my body fat percentage. Okay, hey, you're at this weight based off of this chart, which I know it's scientifically backed, but I just feel like how often are we checking this BMI chart? How often are we readjusting this? And please, someone honestly tell me. I mean, I feel like I'm going to Google this later still because I've seen that chart for years and I don't think I've ever seen it change. I've known for a while that I'm considered obese or slightly overweight. I've danced between those two. But I feel like it just places the wrong perception that if you're this ideal number, that means everything is going to be okay. And that is not the case at all. I definitely know some skinny people who are type 2 diabetics. So I really feel like we need to challenge the body mass index system and update it because I definitely know some people who look obese and they have clean bills of health. That doesn't make sense. So I don't really appreciate that he utilized the BMI chart to determine that I needed to lose 40 pounds. I think had he been like, okay, let's calculate your body fat percentage. Okay, you're at about, I'm just picking a number. I think the last time I checked it's like 32% or something like that. I'd like to see you down to 20%. and then slowly go down from there, right? I don't know. I just felt like that would have been a bit more receptive for me, because as he's saying this, I just go into this downward spiral of yet again something else telling me I'm too fat and I'm not good enough. Now, I get that's the story that I'm telling myself and not actually what's coming out of his mouth. But I have a lot of emotional trauma surrounding my weight. And I've taken a lot of time to even just be comfortable with where I'm at now. And, there have been some moments with my partner where I'm just like, I'm frustrated because, dude is ripped, right? And not that he judges me at all or anything like that. In fact, I think I make up more judgments of what I think he thinks of me than he actually does. I don't know. But it's one of those things that, when you're surrounded by the stigma of being the cute, petite, skinny white girl, which is what's pretty much blasted around all the time, at least when I was growing up, to now, okay, it's cool to be curvy, but we're going to take a lot of features of Black women and project them onto white women and say that's the ideal. You're still, white with silky straight hair and, big boobs, big butt, thin waist, whatever. And now that is added on top of that. And I'm like, these are features we've been having. So now why is that suddenly appropriate when it's on a white woman? Just stating facts here, or my opinion here. We'll say that I'm just stating what has been seen, what is out there. It feels like fact for me because people aren't paying attention to that. That, oh, now suddenly the curvy white woman is okay, but Black women are still, and other women of color too, are still kind of left out. So to go in this with the weight thing, I'm looking at from a racial standpoint, from just being a woman in general standpoint, from the societal programming standpoint, and now from a medical standpoint, that I'm too fat and I'm not good enough. And I just feel like there are just ways to talk through this. It is not that I don't agree that weight can play a significant role in any type of illness. Sometimes it is truly the factor in any type of illness. However, when you present to me that fat is the thing that is causing additional insulin resistance for me, I think there's room to adjust our verbiage to say, we need to look at how we can reduce the amount of fat on your body. Your body fat percentage, we need to try to take down to a healthier space. I don't necessarily need you to focus exactly on the number on the scale. The number on the scale will adjust accordingly. But I do feel like if we get into a plan that is more so trying to get some of this excess fat off of your body, it'll help with your insulin resistance. You'll start absorbing it better into your system. If you lose weight, that's cool. It's only going to further help, because it's not putting so much emphasis on your other organs. So they're not having to work overtime to keep up. I really hate how well I'm at, how good I am at rephrasing things for other people. So it doesn't come off like a shitty kind of response. You're too fat. It's not that we don't already know this either. Like, you think I don't know that I'm not necessarily in the best shape of my life? I'm not going to say that I'm too anything. I know that I'm not in the best shape. I know that. But I don't think weighing 130 to 140 pounds is it. I haven't been that size since junior high school, and I wasn't a fully developed woman then. So I don't know what ideal healthy weight for Taylor looks like. In my mind, it's like 150, 160, right? But again, these are just numbers and we're not looking at other variables. So it was a little off putting. I actually got really emotional when I went home afterwards because I'm just wrestling with like, do I really just resist this because this feels wrong? Or is it just because something with myself? I don't know. I just went into a very emotional spiral. Add to that, he advised me to start carb counting, which no. Like he said, I want you to download a carb managing app. I have the paper, prove it. I'll take the picture. I want you to download a carb managing app and I want you to start counting carbs. And that's when I did speak it for myself. I said, Doc, listen, not going to happen. Been there, done that. I've had Simple. I've had Carb Manager. I've had MyFitnessPal. I do not do well with food logging. Because nowadays I cook with a lot of raw foods and they're not always bagged. And it's guessing the proportions is off because I'm still trying to learn what the right proportions are. It's just overwhelming and I fizzle out and I can't. I've found a way around mentally being able to overcome my food battles, so that way I know I'm not overdoing it, but I'm still getting what I need. And so I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. That's just not, it just hasn't worked in the past. And his rebuttal was, I totally understand, but I'm not saying you have to log everything. Cause I told him, I was like, I have to log shit about myself all the time already. I can't handle another thing. He's like, I'm not trying to get you to log it. I'm just trying to get you to get used to, you know, how much of what that you're actually consuming. And he's like, sometimes that's just what you have to do until you build a habit. Starting out as diabetic, maybe, and that's a big maybe, but this isn't news to me. I know that carbs can be a lot. Doesn't mean that I'm over here going overboard with it, right? So that threw me off. And he told me to do 30 grams of carbs per meal and that I needed to eat 3 times a day. Because one thing that did come up is how often am I eating? Now, I will agree, I do not eat enough. I don't. I easily can go, a whole day and only eat once. you know so two is about average, but breakfast is one of the meals that I struggle the most with. And what I really did appreciate is that he gave me permission for it to not be a full-on meal. He's like, you don't need to have a full-blown thing. Just, even if it's something light, just you need to get something in your system. If it's coffee and an apple or something, like, that's okay. You just need something. So that is something I'm going to be working on because I'm up so early. I was avoiding eating breakfast because I didn't want to check and it be skyrocketed because I ate, So I do recognize that. And again, with now having a CGM, I feel a lot more comfortable with it. But I'm up at 5 a.m. and like from 5 a.m. to like 9 is my time. And I'm usually trying to like journal, gym is the ideal. I try to get it out in the morning. And then, my shower, meditating, all this stuff, getting ready for the day. And then I'll have breakfast. I try to not have breakfast when I'm starting work, like give myself 30 minutes to just sit and enjoy it and take in that I'm having it, and then jump into work. And then pulling myself away, being able to actually break and have lunch, and again, not be super distracted. And then same thing with dinner. So, I do agree with that. And he also told me that I needed to do cardio, 30 minutes of just some elevated heart rate thing, which I have heard from another diabetic friend, 30 minutes 4 to 5 times a week. I only have struggles with that simply because getting to the gym in general is typically difficult for me. Part of it is just everything's in the house. And so leaving my house feels weird now. And I don't want to make my house my gym. My house is already everything, like literally everything. And it's just adding gym to it, or, whatever. It's difficult. On top of that, I'm on the third floor. So I'm mindful. I'm in an old complex too. So it's like, shit is thin, right? So jumping and doing all this craziness is hard for me. Now, I will say that if I did and could fit a treadmill or even like a Peloton bike or something up here, I would. I absolutely would. And I feel like I would use it, but I don't have space. I really don't. And I am trying my best to, just push myself to get out of the house and go for a walk and, go to the gym, things like that. And that's just the battle of, ooh, this bed is comfortable, sleep. Yay. That's really what I'm struggling with. I'm doing better, but tearing myself away, getting down those 3 flights of stairs, taking my dogs with me because they're super annoying when I don't, and getting some more movement, some more joyful movement, because the weather's been beautiful ever since the stupid freeze. And I used to go on walks around the office building, when I was working from an office. And so now that my office is at home, I have to retrain myself in a way to do the things that I was doing when I was physically going into an office. I would like a physical office, like going to like a WeWork space if I could afford it. I really would. I absolutely would, because it's not that I demand work from home. I just would like the choice. And I think that's what companies are missing out on. Is just give people the choice. I would gladly come into the office 2 times a week for sure. I would. I just want the choice that it's not mandatory for me to do either. I can do one or the other, on days when it feels best. So I'm supposed to drop 40 pounds. I'm supposed to carb count. I'm supposed to do more cardio. The last thing that happened that it feels weird, but only because I I guess I imagine that my doctors would kind of talk to each other. I don't know. But he actually scrapped my entire medicine regimen and is giving me a new one. So I was currently taking the Combiglize extended release. It's a metformin combo drug, essentially, along with extended release glipizide. Now, I will say my dietitian also stated that she wanted me off glipizide. Apparently, it tends to cause weight gain. I don't feel like I've had that issue with glipizide. I don't know. It does lower your blood sugar, but sometimes it can be too much. I don't know. But apparently, according to my endocrinologist, it's an older drug and it's not really used a lot. But I will say in diabetic groups that I'm in, people are still being prescribed it. So his stance was like, there's just a lot more better options out there. So now he's putting me on, oh, what's it called? Sin Synjardia or something like that, and Ozempic, which is the weekly shot, which freaks me out a little bit. I think what makes me feel weird about this medication regimen is not only does it help with lowering your A1C, but they both also emphasize weight loss. Need to drop 40 pounds, all right? So it's just like, ugh. The shot does scare me a little bit. And it's just because I have this kind of built up stigma in my mind that once you have to start injecting yourself, like you failed. And I know that that's wrong. My type 1, folks do it so often. They can do it in their sleep. They can do it while they drive, like all kinds of things. I think just for me, it's been built in that having to give yourself a shot feels like you've lost. You know what I mean? It feels like a progression versus, pulling back. Now, my dad is on Trulicity, so, but he's also on insulin too. But I get it. Like, I get that this, it's a once a week. It's meant to help lower your A1C and, drop some weight. And I think, if I remember correctly, he told me that once he had that combo, he actually had to take less insulin. So I will say it just felt weird of like, should I tell my doctor that I'm scrapping all of this and I just paid like 80 some odd dollars for 3 months worth of medication? I'll just chop it up to I've got some extra if I forget my pen or something. I don't know. Cause it is what it is. Okay. Like I just wasn't prepared for that. But he was like, not necessarily. There's kind of an understanding in the medical community that we're specialists in treating diabetes. And so now that we're working together, like I'm kind of taking over your treatment. Your primary doesn't have to anymore. So I'm like, okay, I can get with that. But the shot freaks me out. Now he did show me, and the needle was very small and it's just long. I gotta stab my stomach. And I just feel strange about that. It's just something new. I know I got 12 tattoos and I'm freaking out over a needle. I know. So I think the bigger thing is that it's just the emphasis on weight loss, which just adds to this like having to fight my insecurities about my weight. But it does feel a weird like now I gotta tell my doctor or my dietitian, so he just scrapped all my medication. I'm still gonna do it because I feel like I should give it a fair chance and see how I feel. It'll take me from taking 3 pills a day to just one and then a once a week shot. So I'm gonna give it a go. We'll see how it goes. And I'll keep you guys posted on what that's gonna be like. So in terms of moving forward, like I said, I'm still going to follow this medication routine. I am going to try to be more consistent about getting in the I'm not going to try. I'm going to be more consistent about getting into the gym or movement of some sort, just, going and walking down the street and back. One of my good friends, we went like a 5 mile walk where we were literally just like walking around. We went to one store, to another store, to another store, and then walked back to her apartment. And it was like 5 miles. So I need to start implementing that. There's a Walgreens down the street for me, that kind of thing. So I feel like I can just start walking to do those things. And then I am considering seeking a second opinion with an endocrinologist. I'm going to wait until I see him again. And I want to have this conversation of like how it made me feel and some of my reservations with it because I spoke up a little bit, but I don't feel like I spoke up enough. right? And posing, can we talk more about body fat percentage than actual like a scale number, because those are different, you know? I'm definitely gonna let my dietitian know about the conversation and, get her take on it and just kind of go from there, because I also see her in a month and about the same time that I would see him. And then, my CGM has really been, I feel like it's been super beneficial to me since I've had it, even though it's been a short amount of time. So it's really helping me to adjust my eating. It's really helping me to like check, like, oh, I think I got to maybe 164 or something like that the other day. And I was like, what did I have? And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I'll cut this part or I'll separate them. I won't have them all at the same time. And then, I just need to find something that doesn't feel like working out. I need to find something to just help me get moving again that doesn't feel like working out. I mean, I will say I came from a place of, I used to do team sports. And then when I got into college, I did, dancing and stepping. And those things I enjoyed. And I got a semi obligatory workout in, right? I was supposed to, I had thought about joining a soccer league probably about 2 years ago with some friends of mine. I just felt like I couldn't commit to it, and I haven't ran in forever, my knee, and every excuse in the book. So now with the, pandemic stuff going on, it's a little strange, but I feel like I might need to find something to get into that will help me with that. My partner does pool league, which is cool. So I just need to find something that gets me up and moving, but it doesn't feel like I'm having to do, this crazy thing. Maybe I'll join like a walking club or something. I don't know. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I got. I think that's the gist of it, is just wanting to embrace what I'm being told and, adjust to how it best suits me, but really moving forward and finding ways to just continue to fine tune. And this opportunity with different medication can possibly be my way of eventually coming off, right? So I'm going to take it in stride. I'm going to be optimistic as much as possible with it. I'm still having to deal with my insecurities with my body and, wanting to just accept it as it is, but I want to make it better too, in a sense of just optimizing it being healthy. So I'm trying to give myself grace and space to just feel through this, but try to look at it from an optimistic lens of, it's not the end of the world, not to be so upset and the insensitivities and how he spoke to it, and to voice that, those concerns when I see him again. And from that conversation, I feel like that will let me know if I need to see somebody else. So yeah, that's all I got, at least this round. I'm really glad to be back with you guys. I feel like this season has so much in store and is going to bring so many perspectives to the table. And we're going to talk about a lot of great stuff and just continuing to navigate and live the best way possible with this condition and the healthiest way possible. So, thank you guys for being here, for watching, for listening, for, sharing with your friends and family, and joining this crazy roller coaster of a ride that is my life. I will see you guys next time. Remember, Tuesdays and Thursdays, you will be hearing from me. Tuesdays, just me. Thursdays, it's going to be me and a friend. So, yeah, I think that's it. I'll catch you guys next time. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. And I just feel like, I know there's so many of us out there that struggle with trying to just stay on track with things. And sometimes we get knocked off and we just got to get back up and keep going at it. So, that being said, please, please, please remember that everything that I am sharing is from my personal experience. None of this is medical advice. None of this is meant for you to take to heart. By all means, never do anything without speaking with your medical professional team. Always do your research and make the best decisions that fit you. What I do may not work for you, but do what's best for you. This is just general information, personal opinion. This is not medical advice, okay? So, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Coming up next time on Healing in Hindsight.
Don't know, because we're just making up stuff in our heads. We make up that this is going to be the end, but could we make up that this is only the beginning, or that there's something great for us happening on the other side of that? But as it then pertains to food and falling off track. And just to go a little bit deeper into that, is the number one thing I always say is have compassion for yourself, for your body in the present moment of where you sit right here, right now, because we are all truly only human and nobody has it all figured out.